Welcome back. Well, I thought we would come up with something, again, a little different this time out, but something for use for those of you who are thinking about getting into online selling, but really have no idea what to sell. Today, we're going to talk about the most profitable items to sell online. So, when we get back. In the past, we've looked at the most popular items to sell online. We've looked at how to put items online. We've gone all around this issue. But this time, I thought we would just talk profitability. Some of us, in fact, really are kind of doing this just for the fun of it, just to keep ourselves amused. But for the most part, those of us who are selling online are doing it to make money. So, in that vein, where's the profit to be had? All right, so I did some research for you, and because you know how much I love research, yum, did some research for you, and I came up with 10 items that are considered the most profitable for online selling. This is you can get them for the lowest price relative to the amount for which you can sell them. So widest profit margin. Now they are in no particular order. I just put the list together pretty much willy-nilly as the research turned it up. So let's start with number 1, Legos. Picture. Well, everybody remembers Legos from their childhood. These are hot sellers. I can remember 20 years ago when the vintage Lego market started opening up. That was the point at which kids who had been playing with Legos became adults and simply wanted their childhood toys back. It was amazing what Lego sets would go for. Now, the biggest sellers are going to be large sets of Legos. And when I say sets of Legos, I'm not really talking about modern sets, because modern sets of Legos are build a Lego airplane or build a Lego battleship. I'm talking about the vintage sets where it was like this giant drum full of a whole bunch of Lego pieces, and you put them together and built whatever you wanted to build. If you can get your hands on those, and they do show up at thrift stores, they show up at yard sales, you can get your hands on those. Those will sell well. And what you do with something like this is you put it on eBay and you put it up to auction, because you would be amazed at how high those prices can go. And this is one of those times when if you just say, oh, I think it's worth X, Y, Z, you might be cutting a little bit of your profit off. So let the market decide that one. Vintage Legos. Next up, vintage video games. Now, even new video games will sell well if you can get them at good prices. So if you hit a major sale on a new video game, you're going to be able to sell it. But the vintage games like the Nintendo games and those Mario games, this is after my time. I remember it, but, you know, it's like I remember Pong, you know, so that's how far back I go. Actually, I was an adult when Pong came out, so I'm worthless on this subject. vintage video games. So let's take a quick peek. Okay, so that was an old Nintendo system with the little controllers. You can find those like super cheap. They're practically giving them away at thrift stores, at garage sales, and they sell for big money. So keep your eyes out for them. This is just, it's sort of a no-brainer. An old Atari system, one of those like really ancient, they will sell. So, and the great thing is they'll sell for a lot more than you think, because you will have gone into, the Goodwill store and picked it up in the 25-cent box. And, we're talking some serious money on some of these. So the controllers, the game unit itself, the game cartridges, all of them, they will sell. Watch for them. So, guess what that was? Designer clothing. If you can find like the trendy labels, like, the Gucci and the Versace and the, whatever, Nine West even, if you can find them, and you very often can, get them, you can resell them, and they sell especially well if you put them in lots or groups. For example, 3 designer t-shirts or 3 designer handbags, or, well, actually with handbags they sell so well, I don't know if I'd combine 3 of them. 3 designer pair of jeans, or 3 designer bow ties, or whatever. You can tell I'm a real clothes horse. Put them together in small groups, 3 to 5 items, and they will really sell. There's a lot of profit in this. What you need to be able to do is recognize the legitimate designer labels from the fake labels, and there are a lot of fakes out there. But if you can pick them up, and they are in the thrift stores, they're in Goodwill, Salvation Army, places like that, but they are also in the traditional resale shops, the consignment stores, often for very low prices. Pick them up. They will sell. There's money to be made. Shoes, just, if you can put it on your body and it's got a designer label on it, there's profit in it. So next up is, believe it or not, picture frames. So let's take an example of that. It's not all that hard to ship a picture frame up to about 16 by 20. Really large picture frames, that can be a problem shipping, but it can be done. It's probably worth it to go to a place like U-Haul and get one of those specialty, they call them mirror boxes. Probably worth it. You can get vintage picture frames, beautiful, elaborate frames in Goodwill bins with the most absurd pictures in them. So they're very inexpensive because, it's like, oh, look, a big-eyed clown, or, oh, look, a sunflower. Nobody's interested in the pictures, but the frames, and some of these are just gorgeous. And the cost of buying a comparable frame is going to be anywhere from $30 on the low end up to $200 on the high end. So you can really, really turn a profit on a nice frame. And in general, the rule of thumb is the larger, up to a point, and more ornate the frame is, the more profit in it. If you end up getting like a really large frame, again, like I say, it's probably worth it to get one of those specialty boxes. And I would have the buyer pay shipping on something like that, because Lord only knows what it would cost. But you can also sell it locally through the Facebook Marketplace, through Craigslist, or at your own yard sale or brick and mortar facility if that's how you sell. Picture frames, absolutely a lot of profit. Next up is one that is easy to overlook, and it's Pyrex. Pyrex is out there in vast quantities. So let's take a look at an example of Pyrex. The kind of Pyrex that sells well is vintage Pyrex and Pyrex in sets, in little multiple pieces sets, especially if you can come up with a complete set. For example, I believe the sets of refrigerator containers came in sets of 7 pieces, and they were designed to stack and sit on top of one another and so on. Vintage Pyrex sells. Some patterns sell better than others. If you see the Pyrex and the Pyrex is cloudy and shabby, you take a look at the video that I did over a year ago about how to clean that stuff, because I swear I never believed that stuff was going to clean up the way it did. I was, if you'll recall from the video, I started off with a piece that was so badly damaged and so cloudy and so old and so worn that I thought, well, if I ruin it, I'm not doing anything, because I was sure I was going to ruin it. No. So check out that video if you have old worn Pyrex. But definitely consider Pyrex. It's a simple matter of doing a little bit of research until you're familiar with the most desirable patterns. And big profit margins in this, because you can get old Pyrex very inexpensively, and the Goodwills are just full of it. Next up, Tupperware. Okay, so what sells in terms of Tupperware is the brightly colored pieces. People remember it from their childhood. Sets with lids. If this is an older piece of Tupperware, you're going to find certain colors, and they're the late 60s colors, those golds and oranges and avocados from the late 60s. Before then, earlier in the 60s, they all very bright colors. Vintage Tupperware in good condition is going to sell. If you get Tupperware, especially vintage Tupperware, we may end up doing a video on how to clean it, because sometimes, because they're plastic, they will have unpleasant smells. They can be cleaned. This is not really a problem. You can get rid of the unpleasant plasticky smell. People like this. This is nostalgia for a lot of people. And because basically you're buying a plastic bowl, you're not paying very much for it. The person who is buying it from you is going to be buying nostalgia, so they are going to pay top dollar for it. So Tupperware is our next one. Okay, books. Books, like designer clothing, are another thing that sell well in lots and groups. Textbooks sell especially well. When you buy a textbook, and anybody can tell you this, all you need to do is find somebody who spent even one semester in college, and they are going to tell you that, their textbook cost more than their first car. Textbooks are ridiculously expensive when they're brand new and you're buying them from the college bookstores. And most people will get rid of them. They'll hold them for a while, then they get rid of them in time. And very often when they're getting rid of them, they're getting dumped. In other words, they're not even really selling them. They're getting donated somewhere. And because some of these books will stay in use for decades, and some of them that are like hugely expensive, nursing textbooks, you want those to be fairly recent. Nursing textbooks have a shorter life expectancy than, for example, history textbooks. But history and literature textbooks, often a professor who's been at a university for 30 years is still teaching off the same history text they started using in 1982, or the same English text. That's just the way it is. People are creatures of habit. So lots of textbooks will sell well. I would imagine, and this is my own spin on it, I would imagine that with people refusing to put their kids back in school in the wake of the pandemic, that elementary textbooks are probably going to be a hot commodity too. So anything that is in good condition, fairly recent, and basic, in other words, a basic reading book, a basic elementary level mathematics book, a social studies book, things like that are probably going to be good sellers too. But it's textbooks in general, books in general, but you combine them in lots. So definitely. And because you can get them, books are something that when you find them in thrift stores, they're usually 25 to 50 cents a piece. When you find them in garage sales, they're in boxes, and you just pull out the ones you want, and they're a quarter a piece. That's just the way people sell them. The profit you can make on them is remarkable. So, books. And let's see, what do we have next? Oh, yeah. Sporting equipment. Let's take a peek. Sporting goods generally hit the market in the thrift stores and the resale shops and the yard sales in pretty good condition, because people very often get it into their heads that they're going to go play racquetball, or the kids want to play soccer, and it lasts like 20 minutes, and then the balls are shoved away, and the tennis rackets or the racquetball rackets or whatever go back into their little cases, and eventually mom says, I'm sick of cleaning this mess up, and it goes out to the yard sale or goes into the Goodwill box. That's just an odd thing about Americans. We think we are very sports-minded, but in fact, I think we're probably a lot lazier than we believe. And we get it into our heads that, oh, I'm going to go play tennis. I swear I am. And the tennis racket gets used 3 times, and then it goes up in the garage. So usually this equipment is in really good condition. It's expensive to buy new, and it can be had so inexpensively when it's used. Nevertheless, a nice piece of sporting equipment in good condition is something that's going to sell. If you have questions about the sporting equipment, talk to friends who play. Talk to friends, somebody who played soccer in high school, somebody who was, with the over 40 basketball league. That would be my neighbor across the street. It's like, is this a good basketball? Get somebody else's advice. But yes, money to be made with sporting equipment. Next up, this one is so easy for my generation. Vinyl records and record players. People are getting very nostalgic for this, and it's really hard to get record players these days. Everything is CDs, and take a look. If you can get a good turntable, that'll sell. If you can get nice old vinyl records, if you are of my generation, you know the records to buy, so I don't need to go through the long list. You will know, because it will be the groups that were popular in the 60s and 70s. Very often, if you are in my area, I would look for country western, because that's what people around here listen to. So I would be looking for old Hank Williams records. I would be looking for Johnny Cash records, because I can get them here, and people in other parts of the country might find them few and far between. Nice fat profit margin in the records and the players you need to play the records on. So our last item, number 10, is new with tags. If you can find something in your thrift store, and this is like clothing, handbags, shoes, whatever, that still has the original tag on it, you are going to be able to sell that at a nice profit. Let me give you an example. I remember one year at Christmas, and I wish I had bought both of them. I grabbed a Dooney and Burke handbag for a friend of mine for Christmas. There were two there. How I wish I bought the other one. They were in a thrift store, brand new with tags. I paid $50 for the bag I bought. It was a $400 bag, so my friend got a wonderful Christmas present that year. I wish I had grabbed the other one, because she's not the only friend I have. Somebody else could have gotten a wonderful Christmas present that year. Or I could have popped that onto eBay. And even if I hadn't been able to get the full ticket price of $400, you better believe I could have gotten $200 for it, brand new with tags. So keep an eye out for that too. Now, these are 10 items that are high profit. Consequently, these are 10 different categories you should be looking for. Now, if you're thinking about getting into online selling and you just haven't found your niche yet, look at some of these, because the profit margins are good. And somebody else has already done the research for you. I get this information from checking out people who are doing market research. They've got their results. They publish their results. I go through it and I make notes. So anyway, this will be a good start for any of you who want to get into online selling. For those of you who are already doing online selling, think about picking up some of these items. Certainly, if you find them, don't just walk away from them. Now, Julie, we have her giveaway going on now. Her information is in the contact her contact information is in the contest rules. And I'm going to continue to leave a pinned comment with her shop links and her email address. So the shop links is where you can go see what she's got. The email address is where you can go to enter her contest. So that giveaway is still going on. But I have another one I want to talk to you about. It's not a giveaway, but just want to throw this out. One of our viewers had asked me if I had made changes to my life post-pandemic. And I thought, yeah, I have made a few. And I want to throw this out to you folks as well. How has your life changed since the pandemic? Let me know and throw it in the comments. What's different now? What are you doing today that you were not doing 6 months ago? What were you doing 6 months ago that you're not doing today? And we're going to make a video about that, and we're going to talk about it. So give me your post-COVID lifestyle changes. All right, no video tomorrow. As you know, it's Tuesday, and Wednesday is Wordy Wednesday, so we'll see you all then. Meanwhile, have a great couple of days.